Okay, the time is 7 o'clock, and I will call the October 24th, 2022 Oak Park Board of Education meeting to order. Ms. Greer, will you please call the roll?
Clark.
Here.
Cochran.
Here.
Davis.
Here.
Alvin.
Here.
Hoda.
Here.
Lunkins.
Here.
And Smith.
Here. Okay, we do have a quorum. We're at the recitation of the district mission and vision. Just checking to see if anybody has that up in front of them.
Yes.
You might want to read it. Trustee Smith, could you read the mission?
Yes, mission. Our inclusive learning community provides the best academic and social experiences by educating the whole child, one child at a time.
You don't have the vision in front. Trustee Clark, would you like to read the vision? He just handed it to you.
Just put me out there. Okay.
Yeah.
Cultivating visionary leaders and compassionate citizens to be engaged in the global community.
Good, thank you. And so we will go to approval of the agenda. The agenda was shared prior to today's meeting. Any issues with the agenda? If not, if there are no objections to doing so, without objection, we'll pass a motion to approve the agenda by unanimous consent. Is there an objection to doing so? The agenda is hereby approved. We will move to consent agenda. And the consent agenda includes approval of minutes from our last meeting, approval of personnel actions, approval of financial statements from September 2022. Trustee Hoida, is there?
I just want to double check. These financial statements are not audited, right?
That's correct.
Okay. Is there an objection to doing this by unanimous consent? Looking around, without objection, we will approve the consent agenda by unanimous consent. Not seeing any objection, so the consent agenda is hereby approved. We will move to reports, and our one and only report is from our superintendent, Angela Abdullah. Mr. Abdullah, the floor is yours.
Thank you, President Alvin. First thing I'd like to do is notify the board pursuant to policy 5004 of the Board of Education bylaws. Says the superintendent may periodically review the school district equipment, supplies, and other school district personal property and identify any items that are thought to be obsolete and not able to be salvaged. Those that cannot be utilized efficiently or economically by the school district, and those that are identified as a surplus personal property, the superintendent may, after notifying the board, authorize a sale or disposition of any such items in a commercially reasonable manner. The superintendent will account to the board for such sale or disposition in writing, including the items sold or disposed of and the price or other considerations received by the school district. So after reviewing some of the buildings, some of the technology rooms that have not been cleaned out, I recommended that we would do a complete audit of all the rooms and see any surpluses. So we did that. We came up with a game plan. Everyone has different timelines. But pursuant to this bylaw, we have to let you know and notify you after we do an accounting of everything. So I think 3 phases. We'll go through each phase because I don't like to wait until the end of the year. But each phase will be periodic, and as we identify, we mark them up, we document them, and then I will give you a report of it, and then I will announce it at the board meeting. Our intent is not to sell. This is some old furniture and things like that. If we can't repurpose it ourselves, then we're going to dispose of it. So that is for technology or furniture or school supplies or materials that's obsolete. And then we are happy with our enrollment numbers. Last year, the school board on June 30th passed a budget to adopt a budget, and those numbers included And those projections were based on 31, it was based on 3103, was a projected, these are in-person, 3103, for a total of 3638. We physically counted more than that to date. So we are projecting, again, these are raw, unaudited numbers, but these are counts that we've accounted for, but not have actually submitted the submit number. We are looking between 200 students and I would say between 200 and 250 increase of in-person. So that is value added from what the budget on, because that just generates more revenue. And again, it wasn't just take anybody, we had certain restrictions in place and adhere to those, and so we're excited about that. And then the final thing is that Trustee Clark is going to talk about, is the field trips and some of the exciting things that are happening. And let me just get you those. Yeah, so at Lessinger, everyone that was enrolled has been accounted for. Every single student. At Einstein, every student has been accounted for. At Key, I think we're missing, no, every student is accounted for. At middle school, OPA, 2 to 3 students have not been accounted for. At Oak Park High School, we're dropping some because they failed to do that communication within the 2 week. So I would say 17 have not been accounted for, but that number fluctuates, but still, it's still an increase. So we're very happy with.
Pepper?
All students have been accounted for. So it's exciting that all the lower L's students are accounted for, and I mean, we have parent participation, and they're creating and posting their own pictures, so it's exciting. So heading in the right direction, we're very happy with.
What was the 36 number that you mentioned?
The 36 was what the board had, but like when they passed the budget on June 30th, it was based on 36, but 535 of those were not true Oak Park students. They were Oak Park virtual, where you were only getting 18% or so FTE. So total 36, subtract 535 that were not actually in person, so 3,100.
And you think we're at 33-ish?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, without the...
Without ATS, which, and again, ATS is value added because we lowered, yeah, but actual students physically here,
Correct, got
and
it.
we're happy, yep. And that is my, my report.
Trustee Hood?
The budget, I understand the budget that we passed was based on 3638 times 9135, right? Or was it not?
Well, it was based on 9135, however, we took out the ATS, we had to back out the expenses associated with the ATS.
I see, so that was listed as an expense, and now, okay. Got it.
Yeah. So you look good on numbers, but when you look at the bottom, so now your numbers look good and your bottom dollar has increased.
Okay, did you have a question?
So I was saying, you clarified that what superintendent said was correct, then, right?
Correct,
About
well,
the ATS.
first when superintendent said it was correct, I wanted to understand more about how we did that in terms of budgeting.
So, okay, So we're clear, I just wanted.
Yeah. No, I think the way Dan had done it is he took it off the back end.
I get it.
Yeah.
Understood.
He put in complete revenue and back it out.
Yeah.
Understood.
Mhm.
Anything else for Superintendent Abdul-Ahad? Hearing none? We're good? Okay, we'll go to item 5A, Teaching and Learning District Data. Sandra Baptiste, Assistant Superintendent of Teaching and Learning, will present.
Good evening, all. Good evening, all. And also to, I'll say when I get up to the podium, to the greater Oak Park community, good evening. I'm going to present from here. All right.
Great.
Okay. Is this wider? All right, I think everyone can see this. Great. So I wanted to offer a fall to fall, so fall 2021 to fall 2022 benchmark assessment update, and also include our preliminary M-STEP scores, and just give a review of that, where we stand as a district and what we're doing moving forward, some of the things that we've done previously, but also moving forward. So this is our presentation. So just to give you context, we're going to have an introduction, the presentation, and our conclusion. The introduction will give you a context, which I'm going to get into now. As you know all about the pandemic and all of the things that happened as a result of that. But there's more to the story when it comes to our iReady scores. We're in our second year of implementation. Previously, the district used the NWEA, and so our students had to become acclimated, our parents had to become acclimated, but also our teachers and our staff had to become acclimated to a new benchmark assessment. Not only that, when it comes to the M-STEP, this was the first time that our students took the M-STEP being fully in person since 2020. We did administer the M-STEP in 2021, but it was not, the state did not require a 95% participation rate, whereas last year they did for the 21-22 school year. The other context to keep in mind is that we have more students who have actually taken the benchmark assessment now. So when we first took it, very first time, we had a total of 2,503 students who took it. But now, a couple of weeks ago, we had up to over 3,100 students took the iReady assessment. And that's a testament to K-12. They don't take this assessment at Lessinger. Just the young fives take that assessment, because we want to make sure to offer an opportunity upon them leaving the young fives classroom, if they want to place into first grade or even into kindergarten. We offer the iReady assessment, so that they can be on par with the other kindergarten students. So in this data set, you won't have Lessinger in this data set. But we did see, and it is a testament, K-12, we did see massive participation across the board. For the first time in the history of our school district, our high school met the 95% participation rate, which is a really good indicator for even when we do the M-STEP. The state requires that we can do it. And that, I say it's a testament because it also, an increase in attendance, an increase in students encouraging one another to take the assessment, teachers encouraging students to take the assessment, which the reason why I'm harping on this is because the iReady platform offers a personalized instruction learning pathway that the students, after they take the assessment, it shows them the skills that they need to work on, they need to improve on, but if you don't take it, you're not able to use the platform. So although we have students that are maybe, let's say in the 10th grade, and they need access to materials that are not at that grade level, it's very difficult for the teacher to provide that resource to them in the same way if they didn't take the assessment, and we can't get them on the platform to better help them, get up to grade level, so on and so forth. So that's who's included in the analysis overall. We've increased. And the same thing for math. So the previous slide was math, this slide is actually reading. And I'm not gonna go through that whole spiel. You get the picture that because we have an increase of enrollment, we also have an increase of students taking it, and administrative teams, teachers, and a culture of, it's not just about taking the test, it's, we really want to support you, and that's what this is all about. And so we wanted to make sure, and by we I say the teaching and learning team, part of our context is enrollment. So while we've increased enrollment, when we look at our data and we look at our students, it's not all apples to apples. So we don't necessarily have the same students that took the test in the fall of last year that took the test in the fall of this year. So we recoup students, which is wonderful, but we have students in the data set from a year before who have exited our district. And so with new students who come in, we also have to offer them the assessment, but that also comes with a new set of opportunities to learn more about the student, what they may need, what grade level they may be at, and what other social emotional supports we may need to help them through. So this just gives you an overview of, if I work backwards at the high school, this year we had 243 students who entered, but juxtaposed with 156 who exited. And keep in mind also, when it comes to data and numbers, these were not numbers based on what Superintendent Abdullah had just reported. Like now, these are numbers that, as of today, what they counted, what they recouped. This is what we saw Thursday of last week, before combing through the data again. So that number changes as well, but it just gives you an idea to know that we don't have all of the same students taking the test again and again, and so that also can pose challenges for teaching as well. So I'm digging into it. So I've presented previously about MyKIP and what MyKIP is all about. I'm not going to go into a deep dive with MyKIP. I'm just going to share that it's the Michigan Continuous Improvement Program or Plan. And what that does is that's how we create our district-wide improvement goals, which then our school buildings then develop their building level goals based on our district level goals. So we have 3 goals within our district. 1 for social emotional learning, and for that reason I'm going to share our panorama data as well. 1 for ELA and 1 for math. So our MyKIP goal, number 1, is increasing our student sense of belonging. And we decided to have a 3-year goal. And so by June of 2025, student sense of belonging, as measured by the Panorama Survey, will reach 75% or higher across K-12. And spring of 22, we reached 44% baseline. When we first gave this assessment, we had just over 20, I think it was like 27% of students that had a sense of belonging when we first gave this assessment in the spring of 2021. So there has been an increase. So I'm just going to go through here. Actually, nope, I got my numbers here, 34%. All right, so there's a few things that came out of this, or that are coming out of this. We want to purchase a new social emotional learning curriculum for K-5. We've been able, as a team, as a cabinet team, to get a grant from Oakland County to support mental health, and that's going to be one of the ways that we fund this so that it offsets, ideally, it offsets the cost from the general fund or any other financial impediment to the district. We've hired 6 new deans of culture. We've added a K-5 social emotional content area lead, and so they help to develop curriculum and also work with our school social workers, school psychologists, and anybody that supports students on a social emotional front. We also have we added a grade area lead for Lessinger. So we don't want to forget about our Lessinger babies, and I'm going to say shout out to Brandy North for just, rallying around that. So we have a continued partnership with Hero Circle, and we have a partnership with Communities in Schools to do case management and support with student attendance, other opportunities for social emotional learning. So one of the things to note from this data set is that we see that grades 3 through 5, they showed an increase of 4 points in terms of sense of belonging, whereas our grades 6 through 12 have a decrease of 1 point in the sense of belonging category. And part of me is like, well, what were you like when you were in middle school and high school? You want to have a sense of belonging, of course, but there could also be like a sense of like, just some jadedness. I don't want to say that about our kids, but I just remember myself in those years. However, our students need need arms wrapped around them no matter what grade level, and they've been through it's been a tumultuous past couple of years, and so that's not something to look over. And this data is not in here, but really looking at what are the numbers of infractions that students have with one another. How are they interacting with one another? How are they interacting with staff? Do they feel welcome when they come in? Do their families feel welcome when they come in? I really believe that that has an impact on how they perform in school overall. And just the fact of them even being here and knowing that we want them here, we know your name, we know where you're from, we want you to do well and to feel good. So that's why that's my KIPP goal number 1. I feel like it starts there. And I'm gonna get into the iReady data now. So I think of it like a funnel, starting off from the social emotional and then funneling down into our benchmark assessments and then MSTEP. So with the iReady data, it's very colorful. So the darker green is that's showcasing that students are mid-grade level or above. The lighter green is their early on grade level. So they've partially met grade level expectations and they would benefit from continued on grade level instruction. The yellow is 1 grade below. So students placing 1 grade below, they're approaching grade level expectations. And with targeted supports, they are able to make it within a year. We anticipate that they would be able to make it into the green. Then the red is sort of like the opposite of the green. You've got a lighter red, which is 2 grade levels below, and then the darker red, 3 or more grade levels below. And so anything 2 or more suggests that the student needs additional support and small group instruction. And although they're in their grade level, whatever it is that they need to be exposed to might be another grade level that, precedes. So I'll start with math. And I'll share the my KIPP goal for math. Is that by June of 2025, 32% of all grade 3 through 12 students attending Oak Park schools will be proficient in math as measured by the MSTEP, PSAT, or SAT. Our baseline is currently 8%. The difference with this data is that this is actually grade level data. Like the benchmark assessment lets you know how much the student is growing to be able to be on grade level. So it's showing student growth. The proficiency or the MSTEP is showing exactly what grade level they place at. And this number might seem low to say 32%, but if we're at 8%, we want to incrementally make it, so that we're on par with not just our neighboring districts, but ideally to supersede our neighboring districts. So we went with a number that was a little bit higher than where our counterparts are resting. Okay. And so math as a whole, I'm showing you fall where the students placed and last year and fall where they placed this year. And it's jarring at first when you see where the students first placed when they take that assessment. Typically, it's the student's first time, maybe at this point, not taking the iReady assessment, but it's the first time taking the assessment at their grade level, where their current grade level is. So typically in the fall, the scores are going to be low nationwide. That's just how it is. Ideally, not this low. I'm not gonna sugarcoat and make it seem like not this low. But they typically in the fall are very low, and then you incrementally see, as I'll show you in a slide, what happened in the spring of last year. By the time we got to the spring, we started off with 9 students were mid or above grade level. This is just showing by every single grade. I just thought it was, if you're a parent and you look online and you just want to look at your particular grade level where your children are, that's why I added this slide. And then I also wanted to include the domains within math, where we were in the fall versus where we were of last year versus where we are this year, comparing how our students are performing across all 4 domain levels. So numbers and operations, algebra and algebraic thinking, measurement and data, and geometry, where we placed by every single grade level in the fall versus in the spring. That's what this data, that is what this data is showcasing. And one of the concerns that we had was, in looking at this data, what are we doing over summer school? What targeted instructional supports should we really be providing over summer? Should it be K-3 is really the targeted summer school focus, and ensuring that, that it's more focused on, not that it hasn't been focused on academics previously, but really utilizing the time that we have for summer slide, or if a student has newly enrolled into the district, now this is their first time coming in, what does, what prep can we offer to them? And then this is the slide I was referring to earlier. So the first slide, it showed that 9 students were at or above grade level. By the end of the year, we had 153. It grows and grows much more towards the end of the year. You'll also see in the winter, more student growth, and then ideally in the spring. So.
We pause for a second. Did you have a question?
I'm writing them. I can.
Okay, all right. good.
Okay, so then I also wanted to share our just preliminary M-STEP data, our student counts and where our students are. And we see that within the 3rd grade, for instance, there's so much opportunity for students to be able to perform at grade level. We have to pay attention to what's happening K1 and 2. 3rd grade is where it comes out because that's where they actually take the very first state assessment. But what is happening then with 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and so on? It's a different assessment in the 8th grade. They take the PSAT. What we have are students who are more so partially, well, not proficient, but we do have students who are partially proficient. If we started really targeting, or I would say, I'm going to use the word triangulating, if we started looking at our SEL data, our attendance data, our benchmark assessments, everyday experiences that students are having, and really started focusing on first the bottom 30% of our students, targeting them, how much more would we be able to tip that scale so that we have more students out of partially proficient going into proficient, not proficient going into partially proficient, year in and year out. So that's the theory and the strategies that we're trying to go with for teaching and learning, with our new curriculum that we adopt, with curriculum that needs to be in place, getting teachers to do curriculum planning and investing in that as well, curriculum revision, all play a role in that. I'm going to take a pause just in case if there are any questions before I go to reading.
Do you want to do it that way or do questions at the end?
We can go ahead now if you have questions now.
Okay. So I want to go back to the SEL scores, the social emotional learning. And with the scores that you gave us for math and ELA, we saw the components that play into that score. Are there components that play into that belonging score?
There are.
Okay.
Yeah, there are. There's everyday well-being. There's, I actually don't know the components offhand, but I do know there's 6 of them. And they're benchmark normed. So nationwide, how do our students compare to other students and how they feel? There's also a sense of equity and belonging and being seen in the curriculum, being seen in your classroom and everyday experiences. And just how much access you have to resources that you need. If you have a situation where you need to be able to speak to somebody, is there an adult that you can identify with that makes you feel like you belong as well? But what I can do is I can always share what those domains are.
And do we see the same drop-off in high school nationwide as we're seeing here in Oak Park?
Yeah.
And then in the elementaries, so the Hero Circle program right now is only in elementary. It hasn't been expanded yet to the middle schools.
Yeah, and Hero Circle, it's not a program that is fully vetted through all of our, it is utilized in our elementary schools, but the teachers and the staff are looking into not only Castle Line, grade level, within Panorama, ease of use. So at the elementary schools is where they utilize Hero Circle more than at the middle school or at the high school. They're more familiar with it, they're more familiar with the staff.
Now, I want to make sure I understand the numbers that we're looking at, because as you said, they are jarring when we look at them. So these are supposed to be, these are proficiency, these are growth, not proficiency.
There's
right?
a mix.
Okay,
So the iReady scores are growth, the M-STEP scores are proficiency.
okay, but the numbers we've seen, I see. So when we look at those growth numbers at the beginning of the year, what we're seeing is not that they're one grade behind or 2 grades behind, or 3 grades behind, where students at the beginning of 5th grade should be, but they're where students at the end of 5th grade should be. Am I understanding that right?
No, so when they take the assessment, when they take the assessment at the end, the goal is by the end of the year, it's where students at their grade level should be. So that is actually assessing them for like where they should be right now, beginning of the year.
So when we look at those numbers in fall, and so again, if we look at, for example, that in the spring at the end of last year, 12%, which was 153 students, are at or above grade level. And then when they come back in the fall,
We call that summer slide.
2%, but that's a
Yeah.
significant summer slide.
It
isn't
is. We call that summer slide. And that is not atypical, believe it or not, because you have students that might breeze through the test, take it really quickly, go, stop, come back. It's the beginning of the school year, there may be absences, so it's, that part of it is actually not necessarily indicative of, you'll see better scores in the winter and in the spring where students, and which is also why you have a lot of teachers that when it comes to their teacher evaluation would prefer, please don't just look at my fall scores, look at over the course of the year, based on my instruction and based where my students are, how they grow.
You were saying that the summer slide itself is not atypical, or the way our slide looks is not atypical?
So the way our slide works is not atypical, but I'm also gonna say that summer slide is not, like, there are students who didn't go to summer school at all,
None of
right? So then,
It makes sense to me that there would be a slide anywhere. I don't know if this is where Trustee Hoyt was going. Where I'm going is there's a significant slide, and really drastic. And if that's normal for all places, then that would be, well, I can't say all, but if that's typical, that would be interesting. That would be an interesting phenomenon, but it would seem to me that might be a little lower.
but keep in mind, one of the indicators for our district is the students that leave the district. They're not factored into this, so some of them could have been the students that showed a lot of growth. They might not be currently enrolled in our district, or some of them may actually have, left or started later on in the year not taking the assessment. Like, so there is something to be said for the uniqueness of our district that's not like other districts in regards to summer slide.
Do we have the ability to extrapolate data based on that?
It's really difficult to do that piece of it all because of the transients, yeah.
Yep.
And then students who come back, they take the winter assessment, but they didn't take the fall. Yeah.
I'm thinking about, you mentioned as a teacher, I want to get assessed based on my numbers in the spring because that's the result of the teaching that I've done over the year. At the same time, as a teacher, if I have students walking, if 3/4 of my students are walking into the room at least 2 grades behind, that's going to make it really difficult for me to do my job in the classroom. And then even if they made progress over the year by the time the spring comes, if at the beginning of the next fall, when they go from 4th grade to 5th grade, the 5th grade teacher isn't teaching the spring student, but they're teaching the fall student, that seems to lead to 2 to 3 years behind, becoming 3 to 4 years behind, so that's where my, just kind of thinking through this strategically to set up our students for success, to set up our teachers for success. That number is concerning.
Trustee Smith, and I got you coming, Trustee Corcoran.
So much bad teach. What was communicated was that post and during the pandemic, the MEA or state identified an overall drop in student performance, and considering support initiatives throughout the state, and to offer all schools whatever tools necessary to support these. Mine's is just an ask that when they do send this out, because the fact that I know this is more nationwide, you let us know what it is that they're sending us, you know. And then second of all, while at the ALC, the annual leadership conference for the school boards, there were some, and it may be the same one. You know, I did ask some of the social emotional learning organizations that were there to reach out to you. You know, just to have that conversation, to have that talk. So I think that's a really important topic, and there should be some correspondence coming to you as well. And in lieu of transparency, I asked them to CC you
Yeah,
when I gave them Cassandra's email.
thank you.
Okay. Okay.
Trustee Corporal, did you want to say something to that?
I'm gonna respond at the end. That's what okay.
Trustee Corcoran?
As we spoke last semester in regards to, you know, the 2 to 3 grades behind, I believe that I remember asking the question, you know, we have the alternative school, and that, you know, if they weren't going to meet, you know, at that grade level, then we have the, you have to help me with the name, where they go on the computer.
Credit recovery.
Thank you. I did happen to look up, you know, because I knew this question was gonna come about the range of schools just in Michigan and where they placed in regards to the state assessment. And according to the Oakland County schools, all the schools that I'm looking at, Avondale, Berkeley, Birmingham, Clarkston, Clawson, Farmington, Ferndale, Hazel Park, South Lyon, all of these schools, even West Bloomfield, all scored under 80%. So I just wanted to, you know, bring that up, because I do know that it is an issue, not just here, but it's an issue just statewide. And I do know that we are Oak Park and we have to do what we're doing here, but it sounds as if, you know, with the data, and we keep, you know, putting in the data and, you know, the programs to, you know, foresee where we can and what we can do to get over this hump.
So the one response I would say also, and or add on, is, I wasn't share this at the end, but thinking of it for math and ELA, but that's part of why we had this push for curriculum planning in the way that we did, for adopting a new curriculum for our K-5, and finally adopting ELA curriculum grades 9 through 12. We didn't have that before, like making sure that that's in place and getting teacher teams together, because at the district level, I'm sharing with you what is coming about, but really at the buildings is where everything unfolds and it's boots on the ground. And they then can make their own building level goals and decisions. They also take a deeper dive at their students, like which students, who is coming into the 6th grade. Let's have conversations with 5th grade, you know, teachers when we do our curriculum planning, who is going into the high school, what's happening with the students, you know, and have better targeted supports there. And then programming like Read 180 at the high school, we didn't have before, putting that together and making sure that there's intervention periods, targeted intervention periods to better support our students. So that's something that I know at the middle school, they have iReady hours, like targeted intervention periods built into their schedules to better support the students. And then at the elementary level, the LEO coaches, instructional coaches, and the Title I teachers working by grade level to support students. And why we put the grade area lead at Lessinger to, you know, catch who are the students who are going to transition into kindergarten or 1st grade, what are the supports that they need now in early childhood, so that we can, you know, really start catching up. So those are some of the things that, you know, that we're doing, and it's incremental growth. And that's also why our MyKIP goal, to Trustee Corcoran's point, was we looked at the statewide data, took an average of that and said, let's bump that up a bit. And we want more. It's not to say that 32% is all the best. We want more than that, of course, but at least we can be on par at the state level, and then, you know, and go from there.
What's our benchmark for that? So the goal is 32%?
Yeah, for math,
For math?
Yeah.
And currently, in terms of proficiency?
8% is our baseline.
I'd like to make a correction on the SEL information. It was both Dr. Davis and I who were part of that information sharing.
All right, so we got 5.
Yes.
We don't wanna leave her around.
Not at all.
I know we've got other parts of the
Okay.
report, so.
Yeah, so you get a gist of what this is all about through math, reading. Okay, so now our reading goal is a little different for my kid. We're saying that by June 2025, 60%, we want to go higher. 60% of all 3 through 12 students attending Oak Park schools will be proficient in evidence-based reading and writing / English language arts as measured by the MSTEP, PSAT, or SAT. And our current baseline is 15%. And we say that because we want to be on par at the state level and also, not sell ourselves short. We've also made hundreds of thousands of dollars of investments in K-5 and grade 9, 12 ELA curriculum, and it's like, okay, we gotta put our money where, what's the phrase? I don't know what the phrase is, but put your money where your mouth is, something like that. So, so there is this push from the resources that we're using, from the PD that we're sending our staff to, the work that we're doing, that we meet that we increase our baseline to that degree, to 60%. And so, here's where we were last year. It's still on par, it's the same. 3% last year were mid or on grade level, 7% early on grade level, same. The only difference is we have more students a part of the data set than we did before. So the numbers are pretty similar to how the students performed the year prior. Again, this slide is just so that you could see by any grade level, depending on what grade level your children are in, you'll know where we are. And then how the domain performance compares from fall 21 to 21. You'll see that phonological awareness, it doesn't test for phonological awareness after the 2nd grade, which you should have phonological awareness by 2nd grade. So that's the reason for that. But we're able to share with all of our buildings across the district. Here's where we started off, K-12 for the different domains of high frequency words, phonics, vocabulary, reading comprehension, and informational text. And we do that so that our buildings can then look to see, okay, who were those students in the 4th grade? Who were those students? They have that data to be able to also take a deeper dive and better support students. So again, this is from now spring of 21-22 school year. Our students, we had 308 students who, and if I go back, we started off with 102. So then we had 308 students who, by the end of the year, that number increased in regards to showcasing mid or above grade level. And typically, by the end of the year, this number, the average of this number would be the percentage of how many students are going to score proficiency. So while this is growth data, if you're seeing that 10 to 12 students are scoring mid or above or are early on, that's probably how they're going to perform on the state test as well by the spring. So these are like indicators for us to know how much to push for, and what we can do. By winter, we'll have an idea of how to best predict how our students will do to a degree. I mean, you show up on the test to take the M-STEP and don't eat your oatmeal and maybe don't perform as well that day. So again, these are our student counts, and what we really want to do is shrink the red and increase the blue. And I'll move on from this slide. Also showcasing for grade 8 PSAT, what would it look like if we did targeted, as we're doing targeted intervention work, what would it look like if we really look to see who are those students that are either at the top 30 or the bottom 30, what's happening, and how to best support those students, because we have both. And of course the mid-range kids as well. And then I'm sharing this. I'll share this again in February. Hopefully we meet everything we need to meet in February, where we have data reporting that happens. And so I'm saying that I'm not going to harp too much on this, but there's also like a deeper dive, and this is more for this presentation goes to also our buildings and all of that. So the difference between typical growth and stretch growth. Typical growth is what a student would typically perform, how they would do at different parts of the times of the year. Stretch growth is what gives you predictive data on how they're gonna score proficiently. Hi? Computer shutting down? Is it?
That just happened to me.
I don't know how to hit it. Is it somebody, Jim, is it the hand that has to, do you have to hit cancel? All right, I'm almost done. The computer's like, all right, girl, wrap it up. But what we would like is that you want your students to meet 100% of their growth by the end of the year. And so we want by mid-year, by February 2023, that our students meet 50% of their growth by grade level. And we want by the end of the year in the spring, K-12, that students meet 100% of their annual typical growth. Meaning that provided the instruction, provided also they come to school, they showcase on these assessments by the spring that they've met 100% of their annual typical growth. We actually met that goal last year with the exception of 2 grade levels. So it's not like it's not possible, but we also want our students to be able to showcase this when they take the M step, that they are on grade level, not just that they're growing within their grade level, but that when you ask them a question and they're able to perform at that grade level. So, and then conclusion, I shared about the personalized learning instruction. I'm just sharing what it is, how to use it, how to access it, and then just our so what, now what. We have K-12 intervention groups, we have district-wide multi-tiered systems of support, so that's SEL, attendance, academics, and then we have district-wide professional development, family and community engagement. We have across the board pockets of our school buildings really getting into PTOs, parent-teacher associations, and doing a lot more parent outreach now that we're in person, for our parents to come in and fully engage in curriculum night and game night centered on student academics so they better get to know how to support their student. K-12 cross-disciplinary instructional focus, so that's how we can infuse English language arts into all the other content areas, and there's a lot of investment in training our staff in how to do that. Our school culture and climate, I spoke of our deans of culture, but also our school psychologists, our social workers, how they all work together, our instructional leadership teams. Every single school building has one so that they can look at which students to target and which students to, foster even more supports for. Professional learning communities across grade level content areas, and then the most important is just believing that our students and our teachers can. Just building a culture around that, yes, okay, our scores are not where we want them to be, but we can do this. We can do this.
Trustee Smith?
Yeah.
That's all.
May seem simple, but it is really key, and you kind of mentioned it in your communications. Are we, on the day of any of these exams, are we providing any breakfast or meals for our children? Do we, because not all of them are getting anything to eat prior. I know, make sure mine has something, to get in the system before.
And snacks in between,
Yeah, something, because not all of them are getting
No,
that. I'm just,
I think happy tummy performs and gives you a happy mind.
Mhm.
So, yeah, absolutely.
okay.
One of the questions I have is, we can't be the first district to go through, having some challenges in this way. And I'm sure there are others that have had it and have boosted performance. Have we talked to them or looked at what they've done that worked in their district? Not to say everything, you can't just take everything from something from one district and apply it to the next, because there might be different circumstances. But have we looked at maybe districts like ours, and I'm not just talking about in Michigan, it could be anywhere, given that, this is I-ready stuff is everywhere. So have we looked at any of those and said, hey, what are you guys doing that maybe we can apply here? And if we haven't, maybe that might be something, good to try, I don't know, but if there's some success stories out there that maybe would help us, maybe that, I'm just throwing that out there, anything that works. So I'm just throwing that out there.
I think we can do a better job of doing that, and I would agree with you. We do it, but we could do a better job of doing that. We're at that point also being able to visit other schools, even locally, or not so like, I hate to say OHIO, but Shaker Heights is like doing their thing, and that is, you know, down over there. But we can do a better job of that, and I think that's a really great suggestion.
And there's no sense in reinventing the wheel if you don't have to, if someone's already got the model figured out. But I get it, we have a lot of churn here, there are a lot of districts don't have that, so we have some unique challenges, and hopefully we can start to see those scores climb. We're reducing the churn. Anything else from any of the members of the board? Trustee Hoyer?
Before I ask my question, I'll just add, I think over the summer we saw some, and it would need some more digging to understand what it is, but we did see some interesting reports about what was going on in Hazel Park, so that might be an interesting example. When we look at our district-wide student growth goals, so again, just to make sure I'm understanding, so if a student experiences typical growth, what we'll see is if they start out 3 grades behind, that next year they're going to be again 3 grades behind because they've, instead of falling back, they're staying on pace. So is that, am I understanding that right?
So you're saying that the students are, if a student is 3 years behind, that the following year they'll still showcase being 3 grade levels behind?
If a student is 3 years behind in 5th grade and then they experience typical growth, then in 6th grade they're still going to be 3 grades behind. Is that right?
That would be right. The only thing is this: you can go from even 3rd grade. It's a lot of targeted supports for you to do this, where you might not be 3, it might be 2, or it might be 1.
So my question is, when we express our district-wide student growth goals, why aren't we expressing them in terms of stretch goals rather than typical growth, considering that we are so far behind for so many of our students?
So I would say for that, the reason is we're in implementation phase of iReady as well. So we have to take that into consideration for the needs of our staff and for the needs of our students, that it's best if we utilize our stretch growth mid-year. That's another thing, like not necessarily at this point, like what are you stretching from? And so we could look at over the course of last year, the whole year for iReady, where our students should be, who met stretch growth? Who met stretch growth in the last year, and what were those strategies? So just keeping that in mind with our implementation of the program as well, like these are other strategies that we could use. So I'll receive that as a really cool strategy.
Okay. And then when it comes to personalized instruction within iReady, and Trustee Lunkins has given us personal testimony about how meaningful that's been for her grandchildren. Do we know to what extent those numbers look different for those students who are taking advantage of the personalized instruction versus those who aren't?
That's what we're looking at now.
Okay.
That's exactly where we're at now, especially with our students. I really want to see for our students who, specifically at the high school, who maybe didn't participate previously and now have the access to the personalized learning platform, how they do versus when they weren't, utilizing the platform. But it really is a program that's intended for K-8. But that's where we are now, strategy-wise.
And so to that point, I was just getting ready to ask, will we be able to get a little bit more into the data to understand how many students had, that targeted instruction that seemed to grow? Will we be able to see the students that were 3 grade levels behind, that some are now 2 levels or some are like 1? Can we extrapolate the data to that point when we see this the next time?
We can do that by looking at winter to winter, fall to winter of last year compared to this year. That would be something we would be able to do. So, because we have the student.
If it's not a lot of trouble, I'd like to, personally, see.
Specifically those who are utilizing the personalized learning platform and the growth that they've made.
That, and if we see growth for those who aren't. I mean, if we're seeing growth, it'd be nice to see, what those numbers look like and yes, to see, you just talked about all the money that we're putting into this, all the funds that we're putting into personalized instruction, things of that nature. Well, let's see if that money is paying off, you know, if it's doing what it's supposed to do.
Okay, so what I'm really hearing is program evaluation. Which is cool, it's cool, but that's what I'm hearing, like, from the students who are utilizing the program, what is the output that's happening based on the interventions that they're getting and their usage of the personalized learning platform?
That, and beyond the program, if there's growth, like you just talked about, you know, Trustee Hood just asked a question about if, you know, they might just be 3 grade levels behind every year, so to speak. And my question is, if we're seeing something where they were 3 grade levels behind, but there's such growth, then now it's just 2, or I shouldn't say just 2, but it's 2, or it's 1 level behind, or, you know, they're on grade level now. I don't know if we're seeing that type of growth. And I don't know if we can extrapolate the data to that point, but if we can, it'd be nice to know what those numbers look like as well.
Let's try.
All right.
Get back to you.
On the so what, now what slide, the strategy slide, I didn't see anything there about strategies to increase utilization of personalized instruction. If we believe in that, and I understand that it's a K through 8 tool and we have a lot of our students in high school, but I also can't help, if students are that far behind when they're in high school, maybe they need that support at that K. If a 9th grade student is in that K, is at a 7th grade level, then even though they're in 9th grade, maybe that K through 8 platform can be helpful for them. So is that a strategy that we're pursuing, and what's the?
Yeah, it is. That's when I'm referring to intervention hours that take place and changes made to the master schedule to put intervention periods in place. That's the work that the students are doing. They're utilizing the personalized learning platform, and then there's a lot of outreach that goes home to families, have your kids go on iReady, even for 10 minutes, even for half an hour. So it might not have been explicitly stated on the slide, but that's what I'm referring to.
And then I just want to say thank you, because I know presenting these numbers it can't be
It'd be easy.
yeah, it can't be easy. So being there in front of us with your passion, answering the questions, and all the work you're doing leading up to it and afterwards is really, really much appreciated. So thank you.
Ditto. So thank you.
Yes.
I have one question.
Yes.
You know, I believe in this iReady program. I believe in it. What part are our parents playing into this? Because remember, the kids are only going to learn so much if the parents become a part of what these kids learning. Then maybe we can get ahead.
So at our next Title I meeting that we're having November, I want to say it's like the 2nd or the 3rd. It's not the 3rd Thursday, because we didn't want to make it too close to Thanksgiving, but I think it's November 10th. We're going to have a district Title I meeting, district-wide meeting, and at that meeting, we're going to have it in person, but we're also going to record it to show families how do you access the personalized learning platform at home. Those are some, you know, and live, you know, how you get onto the platform so you can utilize it. And then, of course, the buildings blast out, you know, maybe there could be a YouTube video of students using it or a staff member showing, you know, and then just share that out in a newsletter just so families feel more comfortable. You know.
Okay. And I think the other thing you mentioned about engaging parents as well, you know, PTA, PTO, I don't know what they call them. Whatever you're doing to engage parents, I think you mentioned that as well. So I'm sure that's a part of it. Anything else?
I'll just add that the number one most strategy for aiding oneself is knowing where they stand and having a one-on-one discussion with the kid. As a parent, what's really nice about iReady, as a parent, if you come to me and tell me your kid is not performing at grade level, I don't know where to start. The difference here is we are saying is your student's not performing at this, However, if you work on these strategies, and parents could do that, okay, the times table, multiplication table, I could work with that. So that's what's really nice about that. So I know it's a lagging indicator, and I know a lot of moving pieces, but it gives a lot of tools. Now we just got to inform and educate the parents, which is what we're doing on.
In reading to kids, I can't help noticing that that's where our reading scores drop off is when it comes to vocabulary.
Yeah.
So making sure from very early
Yes.
through the summer, through vacations, through snow days, that we're having those,
Yeah.
building that vocabulary.
One last question. I know every district doesn't use this, but I'm curious about when you have all this churn and students go and come, do these iReady scores go with them to the next district, or is it just
They
grade?
can in their student records, in their it's the CA 60 records, they can.
Should.
Yeah.
All right.
But what you can get is the state assessment data.
Yeah.
And that would give you more information. So iReady might not travel, but the state assessment data we would have access to.
Actually, I had that question down, which is opposite of what you had. I wrote down, when they come here, do they bring their test scores? But then you asked the opposite.
No, I was
Hey,
asking both, like,
Yeah.
either way, but my hope would be that would be
But
a
it
part
kind
of.
she answered it,
Yeah.
that's why, yeah, but yeah.
And then they use different assessments, like they might use NWA,
Yeah.
or they might, which many of our staff are familiar with, because that's what we used previously. They also have STAR assessment, we might not be familiar with interpreting what that means. So to Angel's point, we have, the state assessment is like usually what we, what we would refer to for that.
Got you. Thank you, Ms. Baptiste.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank
Really appreciate it, thank you.
All right, we've come to the part of the meeting where public comment, we've come to the part of the meeting where the public has an opportunity to address the board if it so desires. Public participation is one-way communication in which members of the public are able to address the full board with the understanding that individual board members will not be able to respond. With that in mind, Trustee Smith, if you would please read the public comment guidelines.
Yes. Because the Oak Park Board of Education values public meetings, not just meetings in public, we welcome public comment on school issues. Speakers are asked to express themselves in a civil manner with due process for the dignity and privacy of others who may be affected by public comment. The public comment portion of this meeting cannot be used to make personal attacks against a school board member or school district employee that disrupts the order of the meeting and is totally unrelated to the manner in which the member or employee performs his or her duties. Speakers should be aware that if statements violate the rights of others under the law of defamation or invasion of privacy, such comments may result in legal liability. Most comments can be concisely stated in 3 minutes, and the board respectfully asks that comments remain focused on the topic or issue and not be directed at specific personnel or board members.
Thank you. Are there any members of the public who wish to address the board? Going once, going twice. Go. Okay. No members of the public who wish to address the board. We will move to our action items. Item 7A, approval of high school and transportation building mechanical and electrical award. That was a lot. Anybody want to read that one? Trustee Hoyt, you got it up. Would you like to read it?
Resolve that the Oak Park Board of Education accept the project team recommendation to enter into a subcontract agreement with the following subcontractors for the high school and transportation building mechanical and electrical awards. Suburban Fabrication Structural Steel for $247,800. KM Construction General Trades and Carpentry for $850,000. Superior Services Roofing for $415,544. Johnson and Wood Mechanical for HVAC for $6,041,215. Sawyer Services Electrical for $616,530. Construction cost recommendation amount for the high school totals to $7,855,974. Construction cost recommendation amount for transportation building is $315,115, with a contingency recommendation amount that is combined 10% at $1,247,706, which brings our total award recommendation amount to $9,418,795.
Is there a second?
Yes, second.
Motion made by Order, supported by Smith. Mr. Donald?
Nothing further to add unless there's questions from the board. I think it was well done how it was read.
Is this being funded through the bond?
Bond.
It is. It's being funded through the bond. If the board recalls, we were in front of the board not that long ago purchasing the equipment. We did also award a portion of the high school last year for the D-wing. So what this project does is it really completes the remaining portions of the HVAC and the electrical for the high school. This is the large piece that brings everything up to speed as mechanically and electrically.
How does this compare to what we expected in terms of cost?
I can tell you that overall, just across the industry, we've seen an increase of about 25 to 30% over the last 2 years.
And this number,
Just 10%.
and this number, and this number compared to what we expected, is it within that 25 to 30% increase?
I would say absolutely. Now, as we started designing this project, we realigned the budget, and we are very close to within the budget that we established. But overall, construction costs industry-wide are about 25 to 30% higher, for sure.
So what does that mean for our overall bond?
Means that we've strategized internally, and we're gonna have to continue to strategize as a group, but all the priorities are being executed. And priorities for the bond program are the HVAC and the electrical. So what that means for some other pieces of the work is it may not be as high of a priority. And I know the district, PMC and the team are looking at the next bond where we can capture those pieces right off the get-go.
Any other questions? Hearing none, Ms. Greer, please call the roll.
Corcoran,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Alvin,
Yes.
Lunkins,
Yes.
Davis, Hoda,
Yes.
Alvin.
Yes. Thought I answered the question. All right,
Oh, I'm sorry, and Clark.
Only get one. All right, motion passes, thank you.
Thank you.
Item 7B, appointment Edwina Hill to be named director and Pat Greer to be named alternate director to the MAISL Joint Management Trust. Trustee Smith, you want to read that motion?
Yes. Resolved that the Oak Park Board of Education appoint Edwina Hill to be named director and Pat Greer be named alternate director to the MAISL Joint Management Trust.
Motion is made by trustee Smith. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by trustee Corcoran. Is there a question? Go ahead.
Yeah, where are they doing these, where are they performing the oath at?
Thought it was on paper, actually.
The oath,
Oh, in my office.
okay. Thank you.
Anything else? Ms. Greer, please call the roll.
Davis,
Yes.
Clark,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Lunkins,
Yes.
Alvin,
Yes.
Corcoran,
Yes.
and Hoda.
Yes. I just want to say, we've passed this similar motion too many times these last couple of years, so looking forward to not seeing it over again.
Thank you. Item 7C, approval of Oak Park High School Marching Band Field Trip. Trustee Clark, do you have that in front of you?
I do.
You want to read it?
Sure. Resolved that the Oak Park Board of Education approve an out-of-state field trip on 10/29/2022. The performance will be held at Wilberforce University in Wilberforce, Ohio. The bus will be leaving at 5:45 a.m. and returning at 10 p.m.
Okay. Motion made by trustee Clark,
Support.
supported by trustee Smith. Any questions on the motion?
I just got one question.
Yes.
How many kids and then, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't even see you there.
It's okay.
How many, children are going
It will be 45.
and how many chaperones did you have for that bus?
It will be 10.
Thank you.
Anything else?
So that number changed from the field trip request?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. If nothing else, Ms. Greer, please call the roll.
Smith,
Yes.
Alvin,
Yes.
Lunkins,
Yes.
Clark,
Yes.
Hoda,
Yes.
Corcoran,
Yes.
and Davis.
Yes. I do have a question. I think last meeting we asked that, if you had all of the field trips, that you bring them to us at one time. Is this all that you know of right now?
So far, for, yes, out
Okay.
of state, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I'm most likely, since this is my first year in, I'm still getting calls, especially for next semester, so I'm still trying to see what's going on, but for now, this semester, everything else is, that's just about it.
Okay, thank you.
All right, go represent.
Thank you.
Best
Best of luck there.
wishes.
I appreciate it.
Right.
I appreciate y'all. Y'all have a good rest of the night. Y'all be safe.
Am
You
I,
too as
am I
well.
correct in remembering Wilberforce University, that's the
Dr.
program
Gore.
where
Dr.
Yep.
Goodwine.
Dr. Goodwin
Yep.
is?
Yes,
Okay.
kids are really
Are
looking
they
forward to
gonna be
that.
playing what they were playing over the weekend?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I heard it.
They're excited, they're
I
excited.
heard it too.
Yeah.
And I'm not close. I couldn't decipher it, but I heard it. All right, go kill it.
All right.
Right,
Thank
thanks
you.
a lot. Thanks for all you do.
7D, approval to create an elementary school assistant principal position.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, Trustee Davis?
Resolved that the board approve to create an elementary school assistant principal position. The proposed new salary schedule includes a total of 8 steps ranging from $90,309.40 to $103,737.13.
Motion made by Trustee Davis, is there a second?
Second.
Motion is seconded by Trustee Hoyda. Do you have any commentary on this?
I mean, it is always good when you're adding because it means you're growing. So Key School is growing faster than Einstein Pepper. Einstein and Pepper are both growing. But it's always good where the principal's like, I have too many kids, we need help. So you're growing and that's a good sign. As Lessinger's almost at capacity, the elementaries are growing, that's just a great feeder system for middle and high school.
Understood. Beautiful. Any questions on the motion? Hearing none, Ms. Greer, please call the roll.
Clark,
Yes.
Corcoran,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Elvin,
Yes.
Hoda,
Yes.
Lunkins,
Yes.
and Smith.
Yes.
Item 7E, approval of OPESPA letter of agreement. Okay, Trustee Smith.
Yes. Resolved that the board approve the Oak Park Educational Support Personnel Association, OPESPA, letter of agreement. The proposed new hourly rate table will have 6 total steps ranging from $18.09 to $23.08.
Support.
Motion made by Smith, who so offered to support, and support by Trustee Lunkins. Thank you. Any questions on the motion? Hearing none, I know we've talked about this before, so, hearing none, Ms. Greer, please call the roll.
Smith,
Yes.
Elvin,
Yes.
Lunkins,
Yes.
Clark,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Corcoran,
Yes.
and Hoda.
Yes.
Okay, the motion passes, and that ends our action items, so we will go to information items. We don't have any. We will go to communications, and I would ask if there are any communications to come from members of the administration,
Not at this time.
members of the board.
Yes.
Trustee Davis.
I just want to give, I don't know how much detail that we usually go into, but I want to give a little highlights of the Michigan Association School Board Conference that was just held last Thursday through Sunday in Traverse City. Trustee Smith and I attended, and it was a great conference, full of great information and networking. Thursday night, we spent our evening at the a very spirited delegate assembly meeting where there were several proposals and resolutions, continuing resolutions. There were several of them, and then there were 10 amended resolutions that all passed in some form, 2 new resolutions that were added, and there were no deleted resolutions or no resolutions that came from the floor. And then we attended a series of workshops from mental health and the social emotional learning, which was mentioned earlier, is very much of interest to us. It's through Michigan Cares, and it's a free online service. Trustee Smith went to managing during chaotic times. We both attended a self-care one, and then I attended a onboarding workshop for new board members, which was very interesting. And then they had a couple good general sessions, one on the 7 lenses of ethical leadership, and the closing was excellent. It was by the founder of Because I Said I Would, Alex Sheen, who talks about the importance of keeping a promise. So it was very well attended, very good information, and again, it was really good to be able to speak with others from other school boards to pick their brains and see what they're doing well and to confirm what we're doing well. So.
Trustee Davis, excellent report.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Outstanding.
Trustee Corcoran.
Yeah, I just,
That's what the expression I call. We were recommended to bring that.
I can understand how that would throw you off your comment, Trustee Corcoran.
I just wanted to say that, congratulations to your trunk or treat. It was so cute. And I want to say that it was really beautiful. I wish I had a picture to show. No, I wasn't, but I saw the picture.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, and I wanted to show the picture to everybody, but I was just skimming through and I looked, I said, is that Trustee Clark? Oh, okay. But her trunk was oh my, it was amazing. And I don't know who your partner was.
My husband.
Oh, they were, what was the character?
Nightmare Before Christmas.
Yes, yes.
I was gonna talk about it.
Yeah, it was really surprising. And you guys look great.
Thank you.
Well, Trustee Clark, that's a good segue to your comment. If you want to-
I actually had
And
two.
the kids just go to each trunk.
Yeah, I had 2 comments. So one of the first was a great thank you to Oak Park Recreation because we had trunk or treat. It was in the Water Tower District Saturday, and I mean it surpassed all of our expectations. They told us to bring 1,500 to 2,000 pieces of candy, and I actually laughed. I mean, there's no way. There's not that many kids in Oak Park, and we all ran out of candy. All 40 plus cars ran out of candy. I mean, they had a parade for the kids, and it was so nice to see all of these different people, all of these children. They had dogs. It was really fun. Even one of my son's teachers was like, "Oh, hey, how's it going?" And I'm like, "Hey, yeah, Dominic is in the car." She's like, "Dominic's? Oh my gosh, he's on there! Hi!" So we, our theme was Nightmare Before Christmas. So I was Sally. So I had like full blue face paint, and my husband was Jack Skeleton. So it was a really fun experience. We're looking forward to next year. Hopefully it'll be bigger and better. So thank you, Oak Park Recreation, for that. They did a fantastic job organizing everything and making sure we were all taken care of. And
I must have missed it, and I'm Facebook friends with you.
you are Facebook friends with me, so please go look at my
I
Facebook.
missed it. Admittedly, I've been very busy, but you can add me to the list of people to donate candy
Oh, please,
for
yes.
next year, so
Yes.
I can, and I will try to make it then. Not the biggest Halloween person.
Usually I'm not either. And then I had one more comment. I wanted to thank Brandy North from Lessinger because we had our first field trip last week, Thursday. We took the kids to Blake's Farms in South Lyon.
Nice.
And, I mean, the parents came out, they all volunteered. There were 4 buses of parents. And it was full. It was beautiful. All the kids had so much fun. We got to pick apples, we got to pick pumpkins, we got lunch, we had cider and donuts. It was very cold and it snowed, but the kids had a great time. So, Brandy North is fantastic and she's doing amazing work at Lessinger. And every time you see her, she has the biggest smile on her face. She's doing wonderful. My son is very happy at Lessinger. We're very happy with him being at Lessinger. So it's going very well. We're very happy right now.
Awesome. I was out of town during the snow. Glad I missed that part. Anything else from any members of the board? I have one item. We heard on August 22nd, 2022 from Mr. Shannon Smith of Square One Strategy. At that meeting relative to establishing a transition plan or holding a board retreat with our new board and superintendent, I've been asked if there's any interest in having him and his team do something relative to those two items. Is there any interest on that? If so, I'll talk with Ms. Greer, Mr. Abdulahad about setting something up. If not, we can move on, but I just wanted to circle back since he asked me, I didn't know, so. Any interest from any members of the board on that? Any questions, any thoughts? Trustee Hoyda?
I do think we need some team building
Yes.
work and
Yes.
a retreat, whether it would be him or someone else, I leave to the discretion of the president
All right,
and leadership.
okay, retreat, all right. Anyone else have any thoughts on that?
If you need someone from the board to help, I'll be more than willing to help facilitate that, or plan it.
Thank you. I'll probably have to talk with you more because we haven't had one of those since I've been on the board.
Okay.
So I don't know. But yes,
So just point of information, the persons that you spoke of, just for them to come in and do the retreat?
he and whoever his team is would like to do that. I can't say it
But
would
where are
be
they
them.
from? I didn't catch that.
The business is based here, but he lives in New York.
Oh, okay, because I know MASB usually,
I'm not against it. I don't have
That's why I
a
was just,
horse in the race.
that's why I was
but-
point of information, because I got a little thrown off.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Same thing too, we'll be having, elections coming up soon too as well, so keep that in mind in regards to.
We could probably wait till after the election, but yeah, we do have elections coming up in a couple of weeks, so to your point. But yes, we do need to probably have a retreat, and we need to start trying to figure out what that looks like. So I'll take that as a to-do, and I'll connect with you and on that. Yes,
So would that include us maybe starting the committees maybe before the retreat?
could be a part of that. Could be a part of that. I mean, the committee's still there, we just haven't staffed them. So, there's been a lot of, there's been a lot of change in the last several months. So, we were looking at doing that, and then we found out we had a superintendent search. And immediately after we got our superintendent, we found out we were gonna have new board members. So, it's kind of been, it might be about time to do that now. So, your point is well taken. Anything further? Any more communications from the board? None? Trustee Smith, when is our next meeting?
The next regular scheduled meeting of the Board of Education will be held on Monday, November 14, 2022 at 7:00 p.m. in the boardroom in the administration building. However, we do have a meeting tomorrow at 6:00 p.m. in the school administration room located in the boardroom as well.
Correct, we will be, well done. We'll be getting ready for superintendent eval. So that'll be our focus. Thank you. If nothing else, without objection, we'll pass a motion to adjourn by unanimous consent.
Beautiful.
Is there any objection to doing so? Okay, we